Let's quickly talk about today's game. Real Sociedad and Manchester United 1-1. There's a lot to say. I think I want to keep this one concise because I feel like I struggle to speak concisely because there's so much to comment on, especially the state of United right now. I'm going to talk about really what stood out to me today, specific players. I want to talk about De Ligt. I want to talk about Joshua Zirkzee. I want to talk about Dallo, Wayland. I want to talk about everybody, I think. Let's just get into it. I think going into this game, if you told me that there was a chance for a draw, I would have absolutely taken that opportunity. No question. After that game and seeing us go 1-0 up and seeing the amount of control that we were able to impose upon the match against them in their own turf, actually kind of a disappointing result, especially at the way in which they equalize. About Dallo, first of all, because there was an opportunity earlier in the game. It's quite literally in the position that Amram's system is built to exploit and create as many times as possible, which is a wide wing back with an opportunity, ball into the box for a first time finish for the center forward. Amram's entire system, its most important goal or endeavor at least, is to get the ball to the striker in a very clinical, high XG opportunity. That's why Gyökeres has so many goals. Some of them are just tap-ins, which you have to be there to score. So that's not me making a dig at him. Tap-ins are still goals. And being in there is still just as impressive because attacking positioning is so important. And especially when you look at someone like Rasmus Højlund, who I'm not saying is dog, but he's definitely struggling in the attacking position department, as well as getting service. And that's exactly what this example is. Rasmus Højlund gets a lot of stick as a striker, as a center forward who does not, score. He just doesn't score goals. Right now he's struggling to score. I personally just think it's a thing of form and confidence, which is a no-brainer. He's a young kid, and I think we're asking a young kid to do too much. I think ideally we would have had an experienced center forward, in front of him and show him the ropes, but he's quite literally learning from nobody. We talk about the starved of service, and maybe that that card has been utilized too many times, but in this case, in this scenario, absolutely not. Dallo is past his defender. Højlund is past his defender. Dallo is in front of him, position-wise. All he has to do is put in a ball into the box. The fact that he does not is fucking criminal. And I know that Ruben Amorim is fuming. And this is another reason why I think a lot of the Ruben Amorim hate or criticism of change your system is a little bit too... First of all, it's just unintelligent in my opinion. And two, it's just not understanding what's going on. Because you can criticize the system all you want. The system is getting people into positions that are very good quality chances, but the players themselves can't execute them. Can you really blame the manager? Is it Amorim's fault that Diogo Dallo doesn't put the ball into the box where everybody in the stadium knows that's what the play is? I know what the play is. Amorim has probably told these players so many times that that's what the play is. Højlund is free. Dallo has a pass, but Dallo is an attack snuffer. I am telling you right now, Dallo is one of the most counterproductive products of our team, and I would go willing to say perhaps the most. It's honestly a toss-up between Casemiro and Dallo right now. For me, I just cannot decide who hurts us more in the attack. If it's Casemiro with his really, really, really poorly placed passes, haphazard passes, and just lethargic movement, and I get it, he's not fit to play the system, but he's got to stop playing, or at the very least stop trying to be something that you're not. If you are going for 20-yard passes that are not being completed consistently, dude, relax, play the ball 5 yards. You're not that guy anymore. I'm sorry. He has one of the most impressive careers in football, and he has the most impressive career by far at United right now. Every single person in that building is below Casemiro in terms of achievement. The board, the players, the whatever. Absolutely. But right now, in 2025, Casemiro's gone. Alongside Diogo Dallo, I genuinely think Casemiro is one of the biggest things that hurts us as a football club. I genuinely think when it comes to progressing the ball and playing well, I think Casemiro and Dallo are honestly in a competition to see who can hurt us more. I'm not even trying to be funny, man, because one, that's the most obvious blatant opportunity. And I've had this opinion for a little bit. I'd probably say for the past, since Amorim came in, Diogo Dallo just cannot make a decision. He's consistently running up the channel, especially when he was at left wing back. I'm so happy about the signing of Dorgu, by the way. We'll talk about him for a little bit. See, there's just so much to address here. Diogo Dalot, bro, cannot make a decision to save his life. Like, I swear to God, I understand that there's like a benefit of being a fan. I'm watching him in these positions, and this is a fucking professional paid athlete. Why are you not putting the ball into the box? Højlund's already struggling for form to score. You're just making it harder for him already, in addition to what he's struggling with. And then on top of that, you just don't give him the ball when he's in actually a really good opportunity. At the very least, let him miss the opportunity. He doesn't even get the chance to put his foot on the ball. And guess what he does, by the way? Maybe he has something better. No, he stops, turns, passes back. The amount of times that I have seen Diogo Dalot on the attack, and when I see him running up the pitch, I don't even get excited anymore. He could be one-on-one. I know what's going to happen. He's going to run up the pitch. He's going to get into the final third. He's going to turn around, and he's going to pass back to the center mids. Dalot cannot play right wing back, bro. And he is absolutely one of the players that has to go this summer. That is no question. Let me move on, though, because I'm starting to get pissed off. Look at somebody like Diogo Dalot, and you look at somebody like Patrick Dorgu, who are polar opposites. And this definitely was not Dorgu's best game. I think his first game was that Ipswich or Leicester, I don't recall. Subbed off at the half, and he plays as a right wing back. Saw his athleticism. And then the game in which he gets sent off. I think the game where he played first was Leicester. I think that was in the FA Cup. The game where he gets sent off is against Ipswich. Even in that game, he was our brightest player up until the point in which he gets sent off. Statistically, he lost possession a lot. And, he's 20 years old. And I'm not going to get too mad at somebody who's 20 years old, who's losing possession in the final third the way that he does. It's not like someone who's like Diogo Dalot, who's getting into the final third and then is like, okay, I'm not going to contribute to the attack whatsoever. I've done my part of running. Let me give the responsibility to someone else. Dorgu is actually willing to, first of all, run past the last man because he's, one, capable, but also just willing to. He has a left foot, something we have not had on that side in ages, whether it's been Diogo Dalot or Nusayr Mazraoui, or I don't even know. Having a left-footed player in the left wing-back position has been a massive transformation for us. Somebody who can go around the outside and put a ball in with their left foot. Now today, I actually think that Dorgu's passing was borderline atrocious. And it was actually kind of infuriating, especially towards the second half, maybe like the final quarter of the match. That man was dead. Going to just assume it was a fitness thing. I thought he was injured in the first half, and I was like, okay, just Dorgu's cursed. But he kept playing. I think some positives to take away from this, because I think I'm talking a lot about negatives right now. I'm just pissed off right now because that should have been a win. I think a few positives. One, about Dorgu. He's strong, he's athletic, and I think he's a signing for the future, no question about it. I think if we get two more players that play their positions the way that Dorgu can, I apologize. I have a neighbor who is trying to create the Statue of Liberty just right across the street inside of a residential neighborhood, so forgive me for the noise. I think it's going to be going on for a while, so I'm sorry, guys. I'm just going to try to talk a little bit louder. Let's just knock this out. Dorgu, I'm excited about. I think he has a lot to work on, but just overall, the pros of him are great. He's strong, like most of our team isn't. He's very fast. He's athletic. He's quick. He can accelerate. He can run. He can get into those channels, at least like the wide. He can get onto a long ball. He opens up a phase of play that we honestly, before him, haven't been able to exploit because the alternative was Dalot. And although Dalot is like decently athletic, he's not going to get all the way up the field, past the last man, run in behind, create an opportunity, and put the ball into the box, like we saw today. Anyways, let's talk about some positive. The two players that are battling for man of the match for me, and I think one just narrowly ekes it out, were Matthijs de Ligt and Joshua Zirkzee. Players that were heavily criticized towards the beginning of the season for being mistake signings, which I think is funny that you can call a signing a mistake within 4 weeks. But hey, pundits and media, they're so well informed. They have such good opinions. Like, of course you can write off a player within 2-3 weeks in the middle of the most turbulent season ever, perhaps the worst season ever. Of course you know how good a player is, right? Like, Anyways, I'm just glad that these two players have been able to rise above to be quite frank, above the shit that has been surrounding them. I'm going to talk about De Ligt first. I love him, and I think that I see, I mean, I know I'm not alone here. I see a future captain in De Ligt, bro. Like, that man he puts up fighting, battling performances. He's just so, he stands out. I've always been a fan of De Ligt since he was 18 at Ajax and he captained that team. Like, that team was star-studded. You had David Neres, you had Dusan Tadic, you had Hakim Ziyech, Frenkie de Jong, Lasse Schöne, Donny van de Beek, Andre Onana. But the captain of that team was Matthijs de Ligt at 18 years old, bro. Or was he 17? I think he was the youngest player ever to win the Golden Boy Award. Like, he started his career so excitedly. And I'm just going to make this quick comment on Matthijs de Ligt, how he's regarded and rated in the European center back list or whatever. This is not me saying that he is the most underrated center back in the world and that he should be in the top 5 conversation. But I think people forget that, yeah, he captained Ajax as a teenager. He won the Golden Boy at such a young age. He played for Ajax, Juventus, and Bayern. And he, to many people, has never lived up to his expectation. But I don't know if people are aware of this. But if I'm not mistaken, every season Matthijs de Ligt has played since Ajax has been at least under a different manager per season. Juventus, I think there was a couple changes. At Bayern, it was like Tuchel, and then, was it like Hansi, Tuchel, and then like whatever the transition has been. Every single season, De Ligt has played under a different sort of regime. He has actually gotten such an unlucky run. And I feel like people aren't really recognizing that, which is like something you have to look a little bit into realize, because it's just like, oh, why aren't you performing at the level of like Saliba or Virgil van Dijk? You were compared to him. Why aren't you there yet? I mean, you're not even in the Dutch squad. Are you even good? These are like valid questions, considering you look at, what's actually happening in his career. And as a player, I do think that he gets a little bit overlooked because of the failures that surround him. And I think Manchester United is no exception to that case. But back to the game, and the reason we're having this discussion, I think De Ligt had a superb performance. Not a 10 out of 10, but like some great last minute tackles. There was one tackle where he slips and the ball is going across the box to a player who literally just can tap it in, and he just somehow miraculously, if you watch the game, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It was like in the last 15 minutes, he's on the ground and he just flicks his leg up and intercepts it. It's those like he's out of the game, but he's still in it moments that are like the extra 10% on top of the 100%. And that mentality is what a captain needs. And I think in terms of potential, I think there's a question mark there. I mean, obviously, let's hopefully achieve some things and reconsider this conversation in 1 to 2 years when Bruno as a captain is in question, and like whether or not he's fit enough to start every game, blah, blah, blah. Right now, let's keep Bruno as the captain, because Bruno is quite literally the heartbeat of this team, and undeniably so. But let's talk about Joshua Zirkzee, who I think is probably the biggest positive of today, and personally my man of the match. Since that one, I think it was against Newcastle, that one game where he got booed off by the fans, which so disrespectful and so absurd, because I'm like, do you want your players to succeed? I get that we're frustrated. I'm frustrated. Like, we have been waiting for title contention for a long time. I get the frustration. We haven't won in over a decade, the league. But I promise you right now, booing one of your newer signings is not the way to go. I know we're in a dark moment, and that's what it is. I feel really bad for Josh. And in the following games, I do think he's gotten a lot more positive reception. And he's also, I think, put his head down and just like worked a lot harder. He's showing himself to be more like that player that we saw at Bologna, the one who can drop a little bit deeper. And no coincidence in the fact that he's playing in a role that suits him more so. He's not leading the line as a number 9, but he's facilitating play as one of those 210s. I mean, if Zirkzee could get to the level in which people are expecting him to be, don't forget, youth player from Bayern Munich. I think he has a league, if I'm not mistaken, or a Champions League, one of the two, because he was part of the squad for one of those 2 achievements. Like, The man comes from quality pedigree. He went to Bologna. He performed incredibly well in Italy. He's an exciting, like, different sort of player that doesn't really exist anymore. He's like a Bobby Firmino, a little bit taller, a little bit stronger maybe. But he's like the player who's like not necessarily like a forward who's not necessarily great at finishing. And I'm not saying he's a horrible finisher. He got the goal today. But he's a facilitator. And I think he's growing into that role as one of those 210s. I wonder if he's going to, stake the claim for that next season and be like a guaranteed starter. We'll see. Depends on how the summer looks. But today, I'm so proud of him. He has genuinely game by game since that Newcastle game improved genuinely. Like he has, he's worked on his touch. His passes have come off better. His moves have come off better. The man is literally counting nutmegs also. Like, I don't know how closely y'all are following Xerxes, but the man is like getting a nutmeg every game or every other game. And that, I mean, that's the reason we watch the game. Like, it's exciting when a player can do stuff like that. In the midst of all this darkness, it's a little bit of excitement. And I want that, sue me. Send me to jail, whatever. I'm really happy for Xerxes to get his goal today, assisted by Alejandro Garnacho, which will be another talking point. Real quick, I don't know. I think that I'm going to err on the side slightly of ruthlessness here. And I think that that he should go in the summer. And that's because not necessarily that he's poor of a player. And he has 15 goals and assists this season, but he's not an inside forward. He has a horrible touch. He cannot play in the channel. And in order for him to even work in the system, the system has to be adapted to accommodate him. That's hurting Amorim because we can't play to the full flow in which he wants to play. And it's hurting the surrounding players. And here's the caveat here, right? If Garnacho could just finish all the opportunities that he was given, this wouldn't be a problem. Like the game against Fulham. This incredible opportunity, Joshua Xerxes, where he checks in, drops Anthony Robinson on the ground with a little like turn behind his legs and finds a perfect ball behind over the defenders. Garnacho's one-on-one. And I get that he's not a striker and he's not that strong. But it's moments like that like you need to score those opportunities to solidify that you're that guy. You're that young 20-year-old who like does like when you get angry about getting subbed off, we get it. Because you score so often, because you dribble so well, and you like a little techier machine, and you terrorize defenses. But you don't. And I'm not trying to be a hater. I just think he's not a starter level. And in another universe where we had ample like players and ample money, I would say keep him, let him flourish, and play as a bench player. But since he's not good enough and we can make a lot of money off of him, I'm going to close my eyes and just say, let's sell the kid. That's definitely not what I think about Kobe Mainoo, though. I want him to stay and I want him to flourish because I see him having a much higher ceiling than Alejandro. But I just think I've been thinking this for the past month, and since like the January transfer window, I was like a little reluctant to say this, but I think Garnacho just has to go, bro. Like he's just not going to fit the system. He's a left winger. It's the same thing about Rashford. Rashford is an excellent player when he can play the way he wants to play, but he's a left wing. Those two players cannot work within tight spaces, short passes, interlinking play, running in behind when necessary, but also like not being selfish. And that's another thing that I have to complain about with Garnacho is he's so damn selfish, but like at least score if you're going to be selfish. There's a couple opportunities where he hits side netting, and there's players that are in goal-scoring opportunities, and that's not just today. It's so many times. And it's just frustrating because I look at these players who throw these goal-scoring opportunities, like Diogo Dalot earlier in the game, like Garnacho hitting side netting. Who else can I think of? Honestly, those are probably the only two players that I can think of because those are players that get into good opportunities and then throw. And then there'll be players like Rasmus Højlund sometimes is in a good opportunity but doesn't get the ball, like the Dalot chance. Or Joshua Xerxes is wide open and Garnacho shoots. Or Dorgu. There's an opportunity where Dorgu is quite literally standing in space, just a little bit to the left behind, and I think Garnacho shoots. And it's just those little opportunities that I'm thinking, you want to score more than you want your team to win. And that just cannot be. Amorim's system is not for Garnacho to score the most amount of goals possible. Technically, it's for the striker to score as many goals as possible, but ideally, you just want the system to be in full flow. Whoever's in the best opportunity to score, get the ball to that player, score. Get your assist, get your pass to the assist, or get your goal. Either way, if we're in an attacking opportunity, the ball needs to be in the back of the net. Regardless if it's you, him, or her. Who cares? But it is what it is, and these are real people, and they can do whatever they want. They have free will, and that's what decides between a great player and an okay player. And as of right now, Garnacho is just not good enough to start. He is an impact sub. He can't convert his chances. Good assist today, but I think he actually had a really bad game today. Like, he's going to have an assistant that's going to carry him a little bit, but he had a really poor game today, and he was disappointed with himself. Pass the ball. You know what's funny? The players that need to switch mentalities right now are Rasmus Højlund and Alejandro Garnacho. Garnacho, when he's in these opportunities that aren't good enough opportunities, he tries to shoot. And when there's players near him that are in better opportunities, he won't pass and he'll miss, right? Højlund is in sometimes will get on the ball with good goal scoring opportunities with players that aren't in good positions next to him, and he'll pass to them because he's so low in confidence. That's the state of our team right now. End this on a positive note. 1-1 in away. I think Real Sociedad got lucky today. Quick comments on the penalty. Bullshit. Should have never happened. I think the rule on handballs has always been ass. I think it needs to get revised. It probably never will. Shit like that's killing the sport. And that's the most triggering thing about today is because, even after all these things, and, I can criticize Garnacho for not passing the ball enough, or, Dalot not putting the ball into Højlund, but... And, if we had just scored more goals, we also would have won the game. Absolutely. And that is technically going to always be the issue. If we could just outscore our problems, we wouldn't be having these such sad conversations. We're getting opportunities, we're not finishing. But also, we could have won the game if that penalty never happened. I mean, Real Sociedad were never in the game. They had, they played good, possession football, and I was impressed with a few of them. I really like Agad, Moroccan, beast. I really like him as a center back, and I think on the ball they're excellent, technically actually greater than us, but they just had no attacking impetus until quite literally the penalty. I think that penalty is just so silly, but Sociedad come back into the game. They actually could have beaten us, which is the most frustrating aspect of the whole game. But the game ends 1-1 in their turf. Can we come home and win the game? I mean, Old Trafford has been a struggle for us recently, so we'll see. But I think that's where I'm going to leave it for today. Those are my thoughts. Optimistic, always. More so in Europe than I am in the Prem. But we literally have nothing, bro. We can't play with anyone else. We have to keep running this team, and I think that's the most depressing part of this whole thing. And I feel really bad for Amorim. But, I mean, at the very least, we get to play Dorgu in Europe. We don't get to play with Cheetah Obi, which sucks, because that would be nice, but... our next Premier League game, we'll be able to put Cheetah Obi. Hopefully in a couple games we get Dorgu back, and we'll have a little bit of, maybe 2 games of good football in the Premier League. And I'm just praying to God that we win this Europa League, because if not, it won't be a horrible summer, but it definitely won't be great. And great is the bare minimum right now for what I think Amorim needs for next season to be anything close to good. But I'm going to leave it at that. I hope you guys enjoyed. Sorry for being so, erratic. I'm trying to improve, getting concise on my content. I think I just talk about a lot, and I think there's so much to address. And I think the way that I talk, this could easily be an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours long. I want to work on making these videos closer to the 10-minute mark. I'm not going to lie. Because I don't think anyone's watching at this point. But if you are, you should comment bread pudding. Because I like bread pudding and it's good for the soul. Thank you for watching.